In the 1970s, one of those who believed the Earth was facing an ice age caused by humans was Professor Stephen Schneider of Stanford University. However, Professor Schneider is now one of the leading scientists claiming the Earth is heating up because of man-made global warming. He's a senior member of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and a close advisor to former Vice President Al Gore. Professor Schneider was with Al Gore when he heard he had won the Nobel Peace Prize.
I'm, of course, deeply honored to receive this award.
In the 1970s, Professor Schneider was a leading voice warning of an imminent ice age. Today, he gives frequent interviews warning the complete opposite, that we are all in danger from imminent global warming.
In 1977, the worst winter in a century struck the United States. Arctic cold gripped the Midwest for weeks on end. Great blizzards paralyzed cities of the Northeast. One desperate night in Buffalo, 8 people froze to death in marooned cars. The brutal Buffalo winter might become common all over the United States. Climate experts believe the next ice age is on its way. According to recent evidence, it could come sooner than anyone had expected. In California, glaciers would advance from the Sierra Nevada toward the fertile San Joaquin Valley. Food production would plummet. Prices would soar out of sight. Every winter, the line of year-round snow would move further and further south. If the catastrophic event of 89,000 years ago repeats itself, the ice could return within a single lifetime. If an ice age is coming, what can we do to stop it? Nuclear energy might be used to loosen polar ice caps. Sea ice could be melted by covering it with black soot to increase the absorption of sunlight. Dr. Stephen Schneider is a climatologist from the National Center for Atmospheric Research.
Can we do these things? Yes. But will they make things better? I'm not sure. We can't predict with any certainty what's happening to our own climatic future. How can we come along and intervene then in that ignorance? You could melt the ice caps. What would that do to the coastal cities? The cure could be worse than disease. Would that be better or worse than the risk of an ice age?
So while scientists are arguing over the fine details, while being highly confident that warming is unequivocal and that it's very likely humans are responsible for most of the last 40 or 50 years of it, at the same time, we're projecting a future which, if we're very lucky, is only going to be 1.5 degrees warmer, which means 3 times what we've warmed up now. I don't consider that a lucky world. And if we're unlucky, 6 or 7 degrees Celsius warmer, which would be utterly catastrophic.
Clearly, one of the future's great problems will be to survive the next ice age.
It's the interaction between people and climate that worry me the most, because with everyone jammed in countries, locked in national boundaries, a change in climate means a redistribution of where the rain is, where the growing seasons are. My worst fear is that the climate could induce a change in some country that would be devastating to their local survivability, and that would lead them to desperate acts that could drag everybody else down.
In the past, weather disasters have fostered a spirit of mutual concern. When drastic changes in our climate occur, hopefully, the same acts of courage and cooperation will prevail.
we understand now makes it completely clear that the last 30 to 50 years of warming would not have happened without human activities, and it's going to get much more severe. So we have a case of a preponderance of evidence, a vast amount, but we don't have it completely solid.
Professor Schneider was interviewed for this documentary. We asked him about his belief in the 1970s that there was going to be a new ice age. After the interview, lawyers for the university wrote to us, stating we could not use our footage of Stanford and that Professor Schneider was withdrawing permission for his interview to be screened. According to legal advice, we are prevented from screening Professor Schneider's image or footage of Stanford filmed during our interview.
I was initially in 1970 and 71 more worried about cooling.
Indeed, Professor Schneider in the 1970s published papers and praised books which warned of the devastating consequences of the forthcoming man-made ice age. But within 10 years, Professor Schneider and the scientific consensus was claiming the Earth was experiencing global warming.
The scientific community is very, very confident that it's warming.
So we're here at the first day of the United Nations Summit on Climate Change, and over 34,000 people have gathered here in Copenhagen in hopes of coming to an agreement on our global climate crisis. It's really exciting. We're in the hall of all the NGOs right now at the Copenhagen conference, and basically there are hundreds. I mean, there are just so many booths, you can't even count how many there are. Everybody is trying to have their voice heard, and so it's really a circus of all sorts of different kinds of people. Is there a reason you're doing that?
I don't want us to get hung up in the numerology of fighting to 2 decimal point precision how many percent we're going to cut below 1990 by 2020. If this meeting is wrecked by fighting over that, it is a total failure.
Now, are you worried at all about this ClimateGate issue, this mass media debacle that you're talking about? Do you think it's going to affect things here in Copenhagen?
The climate denier gate, as I call it, because the gate's on the deniers, not on the climate scientists. It won't have very much effect here in Copenhagen because most of the people in Copenhagen are knowledgeable about the issue.
You ever run into any of the climate deniers that you bump heads with?
Occasionally.
In the hallways here? What happens? Does a scuffle ensue?
No,
Do you have a
I don't
rumble?
waste my time with that.